Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of film, dance, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Calhoun III, and I am pleased, honored to have on our show today award-winning actor straight out of the Rubber City Theater production of Sweeney Todd, Mr. Marc Moritz. Marc, welcome to Creative Focus, man. Let's chop it up.
Thank you, my friend. I want your energy, and I want those intros every time, every day in my life.
So you think I can audition and get a part somewhere?
My friend, you don't even need to read for me. You're in.
I want to read something to you.
All right.
Sweeney Todd is one hellish show as the murder story of the demon barber of Fleet Street unfolds at the Rubber City Theater. In this story, equity actor Marc Moritz is on point as the heinous Judge Turpin. Tell me about that show.
I take the fifth. I have no idea what that means. We just closed this past Sunday. It was at Rubber City Theater, which is a wonderful theater based in Akron, actually now housed at the University of Akron. And it was hellish in the sense that, of course, Sweeney Todd, if you're familiar with it, is dark, and minimal rehearsals. We had about 4.5, 5 weeks of rehearsal for a major musical. And usually when the show is done, there's 14, 15 people in it, an ensemble, and then principals. Our director, wonderfully, had this concept of minimizing it to 9 people. So you found the principals, the leads in the show, often running around changing their clothes and singing backstage, right? Because we needed the voices.
Right.
Dane Leisure directed. He's terrific. Anthony Trifoletti, incredible music director, musical directed it. And a lot of work, and we ran 6 performances. Not because we closed early, but that was the schedule. So it's a lot of work. And it was very, very worthwhile. It was a wonderful experience.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you in the production of Sweeney Todd before or no?
No.
Okay.
I have done other Sondheim musicals, which I can name drop now, or you can bring it up at another time.
Name drop some.
Well, I was in the original Broadway company of Merrily We Roll Along.
Okay. We're going to talk about that
yes,
too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's many, many things to talk about there, but yes. And then I was in Into the Woods twice, both for Ms. Bussert, Vicki Bussert, at Idaho Shakespeare Festival in 2008, where I played the mysterious man, but I had done the show for her many years ago, I think 96, where I played the baker.
You know, we were together almost a year ago and doing Ma Rainey.
We were.
At the Caremu
Amazing experience.
Talk about that a little bit.
Oh my, well, just my maybe 3rd time working at Caremu, but I was a child when I had worked there last. Love that theater, love the whole experience there. That production, I thought, was amazing. I thought you were absolutely brilliant, sir, if I
thank you.
may say so myself. And that's kind of where we bonded.
And the same to you.
Thank you.
You used to give me money every night. So
I did indeed.
I look forward to that.
I did indeed.
Did you bring any today? Or?
I do, and it's as fake as the ones we used on stage, my friend. It says Monopoly underneath it. I had never done an August Wilson for a variety of reasons. There's not a lot of roles written for my type, but playing Sturtevant in that was just amazing, an amazing cast. Justin Amica is a phenomenal director. Anybody that has an opportunity to work for him, jump at it.
Yeah, I learned so much in that production.
Yeah, you know? And we can talk about some losses there. We lost a couple actors along the way. Justin jumped right in and it took over the run. He was on book, on script, maybe 1 or 2 days, and then he was off.
We lost the bass.
Right.
Guitar fell and broke. So,
yes, but was that you playing the bass?
No, it was Daryl Tatum.
Right. So Yes, we lost the physical base, but he was still miming the planet, wasn't it? 'Cause that's the
He was
commitment of
playing.
actors.
He was playing the air base. Remember,
was
he said he was
indeed.
playing that. So how did all this theater artisticness form for you, Mark? When did you become involved in theater and acting and performing?
Well, my earliest memory is going to Heights Youth Theater, which is still in existence.
Sure, yeah.
But in those days, it was run by a man named Jerry Leonard, and hundreds of us had passed through it and gone on for careers. And I know my mom took me. I don't think my dad was there, and it was a production of Peter Pan. And I was watching it, and I was just amazed. I think I was about 6. And I turned to my mother, and I said, I want to be up there touching the scenery. Which is an odd thing to say as opposed to, well, I'd like to be an actor.
Right,
but
exactly.
At that point, you know, it was just a visual experience, and there was some kind of connection. And I started taking classes there at Heights Youth Theater. And I think around the time I was 9, I did my first real play, Finian's Rainbow, at the Jewish Community Center in 1969, I believe.
Wow, that's an incredible memory.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when was your first play? Do you remember your first play?
Yes, I do. And I remember production of Fiddler on the Roof coming through town, and my parents had tickets for me to see it, but I had a rehearsal. And the director talked to my parents and said, if your son really wants to be a professional actor, he will pass on going to see this musical and come to rehearsal. Now, I was 9, right?
Right.
My parents had a decision. And I went to rehearsal, and I think actually that might have cemented my sort of way of working, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just supported me taking classes forever and ever. I was a curtain puller at the Playhouse as a kid, and then moved on to Fairmount Center, which is still in existence, and had many mentors there. And then in high school, worked at Obama Theater a ton. That's really where I grew up in the theater and learned love and respect.
Do you remember the actor John Beck? Was he at Fairmount? You remember an actor by the name of John Beck?
I do remember John Beck.
Okay, so John Beck and I were in The Crucible, directed by Reuben Silver at Cleveland State in the old Factory Theater. But I just remember after that production, it seemed like John went to work at Fairmount.
Yes, so that name in my mind somewhere is connected to Fairmount, yeah.
What's the audition process for you for equity actors? Is it the same as for non-equity actors? Or?
It just depends on the theater. I mean, if you're living a life in New York and Chicago or one of the bigger cities, or even here, if you're a union member, theaters have to sort of honor a process of how you get audition. Of course, since the pandemic, auditioning has changed completely. It's mostly self-taping and sending in now,
right,
as opposed to being in the room.
Okay, yeah. Because I think that's what we did for Ma Rainey. We sent in a self-video,
right?
YouTube video,
right? I know slowly and surely we're coming back, and audition rooms are happening. But I love the whole self-tape thing. You know, I think it gives an actor an opportunity to spend a little more time and figure out what they're going to present. And
what type of director do you like to work for, if there's a type? And I say that because early on, when I worked with the Silvers, primarily you were told, go right, go left, stand up, sit. Then later on, as I started to work with other directors who kind of gave you more leeway, it was a little difficult for me because I was used to being told, hey, go here, go there. Does it matter? And especially since you're a professional actor, how does that process work with directors? I mean, is it the same thing? They let you go or they reel you in? I mean, how does that work in your experience?
Well, let's take our experience, for example. We did Ma Rainey. I think Justin sort of let us play at the beginning. He let us move around and sort of figure things out. That's my favorite approach. Okay. I don't like to work for a director that views an actor as a robot.
Okay.
I don't like to work for a director that has a script at home and has pre-blocked the show in their mind because it's a collaborative process. I do want to work with a director that will finally say, good choice, not the best choice.
Right.
So, and, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and not to sound cocky, but there are directors that are known for that. Dorothy and Ruben were old school, and in those days, that's what we did.
Right.
But they also adapted over the years. It has to be a collaboration between the director. If I come into my first rehearsal and I'm blocked, unless we're doing a musical, we have 2 weeks, then it's, of course, move here, move there, move there. I mean, there are productions like that where literally we have 2 weeks to put a show on, right? I don't want to do that anymore. It's too stressful, but.
Okay, so let's talk about equity versus non-equity. Are there advantages and disadvantages to that as you see it, or no?
That's a whole show, my friend. I should say, full disclosure, I'm on the Cleveland area liaison committee for equity. So we sort of oversee contracts, things like that in town. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation, but I'll say this. If you're going to really want a career in the theater, on the stage, and that is what you're pursuing full time, I think equity is a great choice, but it also depends on where you live. Here in Cleveland, quite frankly, very, very few jobs. So I tell my students that I coach or encounter, go to Chicago, don't join the union, get some stage time, get some experience, get some exposure. Or here, we have incredibly talented actors that are not in the union here. Some because they do it for fun, for hobby, for semi-profession. And you'll find that the handful of us union actors that have made a choice to make Cleveland their home, some of us work all the time, some of us work none of the time, most of us work some of the time, right?
Okay.
So
it just depends.
It depends, and it depends on the theater and how many contracts they have. Over the last number of years, this being a local show, your audience will know, Beck Center, for instance, went full equity, meaning small professional theater. So they are connected to the union. Doesn't mean they have to use union for every actor.
Right. And Dobama is too.
Dobama the same way. I will say braggingly that our liaison committee helped outreach over the years to let producers know it's not as expensive and painful as you think to use union actors. Karamu often uses equity actors.
Sure.
I would not have been there had it not been for that.
Exactly.
You're also, I'm sorry,
No.
you're also in a union, so you're protected, right?
Sure.
So there are bad things that happen on job sites, and there's no exception to the theater. And so if you're not union, you really have not as much recourse. So.
And you also do commercials too, right?
I got to pay the rent, my friend. I have a cat that eats nonstop.
Tell me about that experience in doing commercials.
I love it.
Versus stage.
Oh, I'd much rather just do commercials all the time.
Really?
No, I'm being flip. It's a whole different process. But I love film and I love commercials. I love the money. I love the sets. This is a shout out to all the tech people out there, so I'm kissing some butt right now. But I have never worked on a crappy set. I mean, very rarely, right? We have incredible people in town.
You as soon as you sat down, you loved our set.
Well, with some exceptions. Just kidding, my friend. No, but I mean, just in terms of how it's handled, especially with COVID, very safe sets these days. And it pays well, and there's some agencies in town if actors want to hook up with them, or you can try to do it on your own, you know.
Okay, so let's take a moment and take a look at Marc in a Walmart commercial.
Another Medicare mailer and another Medicare mailer. More Medicare mailers.
John, why don't you just go to Discount Drug Mart?
Hi, Wilma Smith here for my friends at Discount Drug Mart. It's Medicare open enrollment time, and we all know how complicated choosing a Medicare plan can be. Not with Discount Drug Mart. With your list of medications, Drug Mart's pharmacist can provide a free Medicare plan consultation, allowing you to select a plan that best fits your needs and saves you money. Discount Drug Mart saves you the Medicare runaround.
Do you remember that, sir?
I do. May I correct you and say it's a Drug Mart
Oh,
commercial?
Drug Mart. You may correct me.
Walmart needs no more advertising. And had it been Walmart, I'd be so rich I wouldn't even be here right now. It was shot many years ago, not that many, with a local actress, Lissy Gulick. That was great fun. And it was for Medicare. So it's now still shown, when Medicare is sort of re-upping. We'll see it for the last 8 years. Do I get residuals? No, I do not.
Why not?
Different spots are, they negotiate differently.
got
So I
you.
got one
Lump sum.
Yeah,
then
and it
going
was
on.
still not enough.
What do you think your strength is as a performer? What would you say?
I think probably a director I worked with not long ago, I did a show at Human Race Theater in Dayton, which is a terrific theater, and it was a new play about Pete Rose, great play. And she, at one point, said, Marc, you're a forward-thinking actor. And I didn't know what it meant. And what she meant was, I'll take a leap. I will improvise. I will fill a moment. I'll make a choice as opposed to waiting to hear a choice. So I guess that's my strength. I've had a lot of improv training, and that's what I taught for many, many years, and ran a group called Giant Portions here in town for about 10 years. So
did you ever work with a improv group, Something Dada?
I never worked with them,
Okay.
but a number of them were affiliated. We were sort of, Giant Portions came around 86 to 92. Something Dada sort of happened a little after that, but we sort of crossed paths. But yes, I know all those people. We were very successful. Dada's been incredibly successful with their home at Beck every.
I only mention that because they used to be housed in the Tower Press development where I live. They had a spot in there.
Right.
And when I first moved there, they had performances in there.
Yeah.
That's why I knew they were an improv group,
Yeah,
you know.
they're still at it.
Yeah, they're still at it. If you had a dream character to play, who would he be? Or do you have one?
I am asked this question. I
Just
don't have a dream character. My dream roles are those that are not a lot of words, but have impact in the world of the story of the play. Like Sturtevant, for instance. I mean, I'm getting up there where I don't learn lines, as easily, and I don't need to be the engine of a show anymore. I would prefer to just sort of be in the caboose, and
Right.
along for the ride.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Unless there's a Broadway producer out there that is considering me for a lead, then that's a whole other.
What do you enjoy most about performing?
I dig the moment of being in the world of whatever it is that we've created. That's what I enjoy most. Some people might say the camaraderie with the other actors, or the dressing rooms, or not so much. But I enjoy the experience of connecting to an audience. I was trained, it's like actor to actor, out to the audience, and then the audience back to you, if that makes any sense.
So you enjoy the interaction with the audience?
I do. If it's not direct interaction, that's the energy, what the room brings in. But, I can be in a basement theater with 8 people and have a brilliant experience. To me, it's not how big or large or where it is.
We both share experiences with a woman who's really dear to me. I've spoken about her.
Are
on
you going to
several of
bring
my
our
shows.
relationships up again?
No,
Because this is.
no,
Oh, I see where you're going.
Dorothy Silver,
Oh, yes.
Reuben Silver. Tell me about your experience with them. Or with them.
I love both of them. I don't even remember where I first met them. It might actually have been at Karamu when Reuben was, and then Dorothy was running the theater program at the old JCC. So I worked for her. So between those two theaters, I think that's where we crossed paths. I love them both. They were the Lunts of Cleveland. They were the theater couple. I loved watching them collaborate and also work separately. My experience doing Yentl with Dorothy at the Cleveland Playhouse was just fabulous, and we got to actually create something together. She and I opened the show, as it were, so we had to come up with kind of shtick and stuff. So, but very gentle. Dorothy particularly knew what she wanted when she directed. She was one of those that had a vision, but it was very collaborative all the time, and always welcoming in their home. I mean, they were just menches, just the biggest menches.
We used to, when we were at CSU performing for Reuben, maybe about a week before the show went up, Dorothy would come in and sit in the back, not say a word, just sit in the back. And then she'd leave, after. And the next day at rehearsal, we go up to Reuben and said, what did Dorothy think? What did Dorothy think? And he'd always say, yeah. We were just in awe of her.
Yeah.
And they attended the workshop production of The Mighty Scarabs at the Dobama, directed by Christopher Johnston. And the opening night, there was just a buzz, and nobody knew why, because we were all backstage, and then somebody ran in and said, the Silvers are here, the Silvers are here. And so at that time, Reuben's health was starting to deteriorate. And so I went into the lobby, and they were there, and I was like, I didn't think you would come. And Dorothy said, Reuben said, we can't miss Cornell's opening. So they just meant the world.
Yeah,
to me.
he actually got to as much as he could over the years. Also, let's talk about how brilliant an actress she is, and how many opportunities we had here. I mean, Broadway caliber. They could have worked anywhere.
And let's talk about Broadway, because how many actors have an opportunity to work on Broadway as you, sir?
Broadway. Okay, that's enough for you. Pay royalties.
Let's talk about that experience of work. How many times have you done Broadway shows?
Oh, my friend, how lovely that you asked. Just once. But I have a friend that says, don't put just in front of. I've done Broadway. I've been in one Broadway show.
And what was that show?
That show was Merrily We Roll Along. It was in 1981. I was 26 years old. It was a Stephen Sondheim musical. George Firth wrote the book, and Harold Prince Hal directed it. And it was at the Alvin Theater. We opened November 16th, 1981, and closed 16 performances later.
Wow.
So it is, however, the show that won't go away. It is the most impactful part of my career, in that all 20 whatever of us are still alive, knock wood, and are still all very connected. Amazing people came from that musical. Giancarlo Esposito, are you aware of who he is? Yeah. Was my dressing room mate. Jason Alexander, George in Seinfeld was in that show. Liz Calloway, Daisy Prince. And we were all very young. It was most of our Broadway shows. They wanted 20-year-olds, but most of us, we realized, lied about our age. I came into that show 2 weeks after it was in rehearsal, so I was the last person to go into the show. There is a documentary about it called The Best Worst Thing That Ever Could Have Happened, which is a lyric from one of the songs. Lonnie Price, who was Charlie in the musical, ended up doing a documentary about 5 or 6 years ago.
So you're still in contact with some of them?
We are beyond in contact. We have email links, we have reunions, we go see other productions of Merrily. We're often invited to do panels. It was a flop, but a famous flop.
And so how was it that you were cast in that show? What was the process?
I moved to New York.
Because I know you said it opened, you came in after it opened.
I moved to New York in 1978.
Okay.
I did a bunch of improv. At one point, in those days, there was Backstage. That was the newspaper, and that's how you found out auditions if you didn't have an agent. And I was new to New York. I was 20 whatever. So, but I saw an audition notice. I sent my headshot in, which usually is just like here, and then tossed it to a trash can. That's usually what happens. I got a call to come in and audition from Joanna Merlin, a major casting director for Hal Prince. And I went in and sang a song or so into this was the stage of wherever Evita was at that time. I was on that stage, and I sang a song, and in the audience was Hal Prince, Not Stephen was not there, but our choreographer at the time, and the casting director, Joanna Merlin. And he screamed out, "Do you know any other song?" I sing something ridiculous, some Boz Scaggs song, not a Broadway show song. I sang something else. Then he gave me some script, and he said, "I want you to go away for an hour and learn this script." And so I went to a diner, and I worked on the script. I came back. I read it with the stage manager, once again on this Broadway stage. I mean, my heart's beating. I'm calling friends going, "I'm auditioning for this." The choreographer calls out from the back, "Do you dance?" I said, "I move okay." I don't dance at all, okay? But I'm not going to say no.
No, right, exactly.
Okay? Did he audition me? No, he took my word for it. So I'm done reading, and then I hear from George Firth, who's a famous actor and was in Blazing Saddles, but has written a lot of other things, wrote Company. Say he came down the aisle, he gave me a dime, and he said, "Go call your parents and tell them you're in a Broadway show." That's how I got cast. Then they were in rehearsal that day. So Joanna Merlin, the casting director, took me in the elevator to go to Hal's, to go down and then to walk to Hal Prince's office where I had to sign a contract. In the elevator, she said, "You can scream if you want to." I didn't, but I was bursting. She walked me to Hal Prince's office. I signed a contract. She walked me to Michael Bennett's studios, which was then where we were rehearsing. And I walked into a rehearsal hall. That was my day, Cornell. That was how I got in that show. In like 5 hours, my life changed.
Wow.
The show had been cast a year earlier, so the cast had bonded already. They had a newsletter for a whole year, but it was postponed for money reasons and other reasons. So the cast bonded over that year. So when they finally started rehearsing and I came in, I was sort of the newbie, and it was awkward. And then I was embraced, but it was an intense experience. I'll just keep talking about that show and that experience forever, because right now Annie Morrison, who is a wonderful actress and was the lead in that show, is doing a cabaret called Sondheim Center Stage about her experience being in the show. It was just done at 54 Below in New York, and she's going to be doing it at theaters. So it's still very much, Jason Alexander still talks about this as one of his major experiences. So it really impacted all of us.
So you made up your mind just to go to New York. You decided that you had enough of Cleveland and wanted to, spread
Well, I
your
had graduated
wings.
high school, and I went to Kent State University to major in theater.
Okay.
This was 1974, 75. And in my third year, I realized I don't need my parents or myself to spend another however many thousands of dollars for me to go to New York and wait tables, because that's where I knew I was going. We knew
Okay,
that.
right.
My parents, by the way, I should say, were supportive from the get-go. I'm so blessed, Cornell, to have had that kind of, experience. Parents that were that supportive.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now
But
you've
what was
al-
the question?
I'm going to
Oh,
give you another.
so I went to Kent State, but I dropped out in my third year, and I moved to New York when I was 21. That's the point. I never got my BA. I went back and got my MFA at 55 years of age in 2009.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you, at Kent State. And that's where I started more adjuncting and teaching and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
and
yes, I knew, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I knew I was going to be an actor. There was nothing falling back. I wasn't studying anything else. I still have no skills.
You have a lot of skills.
Well, outside of that world.
I was so impressed with a clip you shared with me of you teaching that I want to share with our audience, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
Here's a clip of Marc teaching young people about acting.
It takes a lot of concentration, imagination, which is what someone in the last class said is the biggest element. Because you have to imagine you're not only the character, but in the world of the play. So the first thing we're going to do is just a little exercise to warm you up. Okay, I'm going to explain what that means. But first I'm going to ask you very quietly as one team to come into this space here without speaking, without whispering. Excellent. And now I'm going to ask you to do the following quietly without speaking. Just simply move as yourselves through the space. You don't have to move in any particular order. You don't have to move as one group. Just use yourself to move in the space. Like this young man can move, but you need to keep moving. And I'm going to call freeze, and I want you to freeze like mannequins. Like I'm looking in a store window, and you're each a mannequin. Freeze. This Kenston group is really good about freezing, let me tell you. Good, move through the space again, I'll call freeze. Whatever position you're in, you freeze. Walk as yourself, move as yourself. Freeze. Good, good, feel like I'm at Sears. Freeze. Ooh, I said freeze. Good, move. And freeze. While you're frozen, I'm going to explain this exercise. While you're moving through the space, I'm going to start, and I'm going to call freeze, and I'm going to say, let's all, and I'm going to make a suggestion. It might be, let's all do jumping jacks. And as a group, you're going to say, yes, let's. Let me just hear you as a group, so it should sound like one person speaking. Say, yes, let's. Go.
Yes, let's.
Excellent. So you will do that before you jump into the exercise. So I might say, let's all get on our hands and knees and bark like dogs. And you'll say,
yes, let's.
and then you'll get on your hands and knees and bark like dogs. At some point, I'm going to ask you to give a suggestion, and I want you to keep in mind that it would be something your grandmother, aunt, or mother would be very proud that you suggest. Okay? So, you'll move through the space. I'll call freeze. I'll make the suggestion. Don't judge it. Just jump right into it and make it real for you. I may say, let's all play basketball. So you're going to mind balls, and whatever it is for you that means basketball, that's what you do. Okay?
I love that. What do you enjoy most about the teaching aspect of theater? I mean, you seem so engrossed there.
Yeah, I would say teaching actually became my biggest passion. At one point, I actually, friends laugh now, but I've quit the business many times. I've hated acting hundreds of times, and I still go back. Teaching, I've always just loved, especially with young people, imparting skills that have nothing to do with acting, but have to do with living. So my background in improv teaches theater games and works with all kinds of folks to deal with spontaneity, ensemble, self-esteem, articulating feelings. And I was lucky enough over the years, many years, to be a teaching artist through Playhouse Square. Tina and I often work together in that way.
Tina D. Stump.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm name dropping. Tina the D Stump, yes. It was, schools would be bussed in or come in from other communities, often demographics that would not get exposure to the arts. And so for me, that was one of the most rewarding experiences. Never had an interest in teaching in a high school or a public school.
Right, yeah, like I did, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and many do, and so they have pensions and are living quite comfortably while I have nothing. No, that's not true. That's the other thing about the union. I'll just say my pension is very helpful. They do provide a pension, so like any other union, actors union does that.
Quick question.
Yeah.
We've been doing this a long time. Do you believe, or do you agree, because a lot of people have said this, that as you get older, acting opportunities diminish? Would you say that? No?
It's hard to generally answer that because I think it depends on what gender you might be. I think we as men who age in this business still have more opportunities than women. That's my perspective over the years. Yes and no. My issue when I was younger was I had this baby face. So even though I was older and wanted to do these, I still do, I know, wanted to do these roles, I fell between the cracks. So I couldn't do the older roles. I couldn't do necessarily the younger. So really, I didn't start working more until I got to be a little older.
Okay.
So I think it depends on that. But if you look at casting now, just the whole face of theater has shifted and changing. So I'm not sure where I fit in anymore. Where as an older person, and
I'm sure the opportunities will continue to come.
I'm sure they will too.
So what's next? For you?
I'm very hungry. I'm going to go out to lunch. I may go to Becky's Gonna go home and feed the. Oh, I'm sorry. You mean in my career?
Your career, sir.
Not a thing.
Not a thing.
No. There used to be a time when if I didn't know what was coming next, I'd be full of anxiety and I need this project. Just, between the world of COVID changing the world and me getting older and just being more of a home. Listen, I'm still up for roles, don't worry. But I don't have that drive anymore. And actually, it's a comfort almost to not have that drive anymore. I think I've earned the right to just sort of relax. There are shows I look at and it's like, oh my, I would love to do it. Oh wait, it's $395 a week in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm going to leave my home, get a cat sitter, the woman I love I'm going to leave, my family, and what? So I would have done that many, many years ago, but not anymore. So there's really nothing ahead. I'm talking to some actors in town. We're talking about doing some more readings. I did a reading for Interplay Theater recently, which those kind of things I like, where I don't have to learn any more lines.
Hey, well, I want to thank you.
Thank you
for coming on. I want to thank my special guests, Marc, Moritz, for hanging out with me today on Creative Focus. So that's it, Cleveland. We're out. But remember, a true artist is not only inspired, but inspires others. I'm Cornell Calhoun III for TV 20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time becomes our time, be well, be safe.